Hi there, it's me, the cute little kitten again, and I come back to try to get your attention on a subject that you may not know about because it wasn't reported on in the news. It happened just before Memorial Day 2009. The Senate passed a piece of legislation that does something pretty alarming, but they did it just before the holiday weekend so that nobody would report on it. And it worked. I'm talking about Torture Amendment 1157. It's an amendment crafted by Senator Joseph Lieberman, the former Democrat who's now an independent, so that he can align himself with the Republican Party. And that ought to tell you a lot about what kind of amendment this is. This amendment gives the Secretary of Defense the power to censor any photographic evidence of torture by the United States military. Now, it applies, yes, to photographs that Barack Obama has tried to have censored, in spite of Obama's earlier promise to reveal the photographs, and in spite of Obama's previous promise that he was going to respect the Freedom of Information Act. So this amendment is not just making torture more possible, it's also an attack on open government, on honest government. It's an attack against the Freedom of Information Act. And it's not just applying to photographs in the past. Those ones talked about by Barack Obama. You see, Lindsey Graham, another senator who supported this bill, and Joseph Lieberman, they said, well, it's no big deal if we just pass this amendment because we already know about the specific acts of torture that were depicted in these photographs. And so we're not going to gain anything if those photographs are revealed. But that's not an honest argument. You know, I looked at this amendment, Torture Amendment 1157, and I may be just a kitten, but I noticed what's really there. This amendment does not just apply to photographs of torture taken in the past. It was written to apply for any future photographs of torture, any future acts of torture that somebody happens to photograph. The Secretary of Defense has the power now to censor those photographs, to conceal them from the American public. Now ask yourself a question here. Why is the United States Senate passing a piece of legislation to give the Secretary of Defense permission to conceal, to hide from you photographs of torture that take place in the future? Why would they do that unless they realized that there's more torture that's going to go on? Why else would they do that? It's a little bit crazy, isn't it? Well, you know what's really sad? This is not a partisan issue of Republicans versus Democrats, because every single Democrat in the United States Senate went along with this amendment. Every single one went along with the cover-up of evidence of torture. It was a unanimous voice vote. Not one senator stood up to speak against this amendment. Not one senator demanded even a roll call vote. Not one senator voted against it. Democrats and Republicans voted to cover up torture that's going to happen in the future. That's what this amendment does. How does that make you feel about the Democratic Party? I know I'm just a little kitten, but I can remember in 2008, the era of yes, we can. All the promises they made. I remember that. I remember how everything was going to be different. And Barack Obama and his Democrats were going to take care of torture. Well, they're taking care of it all right. They're covering it up, and they're continuing the Bush policies of government secrecy and apparently of torture. Apparently they're planning more torture in the future. Well, I may be an innocent little kitten, but I'm not so stupid as to be taken advantage of. My trust in the Democrats is through. And that doesn't mean I'm running to the Republicans. We need to look elsewhere for somebody who really will respect the liberal, democratic traditions of our nation. The Democrats won't do it. They just use us. They just betray us. The Republicans never did it. We need another party and another voice, because we just can't trust Barack Obama and the Democrats anymore.